Welcome back. This is episode 9 of the Eagle Experience. I'm your host, Zach Roach, and I'm here with Sue Kierzkowski. So let's get straight into it. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I am Sue Kierzkowski. I believe I may be the first of your podcast of people who don't actually born and raised in Gainesville. I was born and raised in the Midwest in Indiana. Got down to Georgia via my husband at the time, still my husband, with his job. And we have now been here for almost 29 years. We've been married 36 years next month, and we have 2 kids. They're 34 and 31, and 5 grandchildren. They keep us
Quite
busy.
wonderful. So if you would, just go ahead and walk me through maybe a short timeline of your life and how you got here to Chestatee through college and whatever else.
So I didn't go the traditional route through school. I did go to Purdue University. I didn't go into education to begin with. I did graduate with a degree in financial counseling and planning, and we then immediately, 3 weeks prior to my graduation, we moved to Milwaukee. We were there for 5 years, and then we moved down to Georgia. And I, at the time, had 2 small children, so I stayed home and had an in-home daycare for about 4 years. That was a lot. And I said, you know what? I think I'd like to go do something in education, in a school system. And so I went looking for a job as a parapro in an elementary school. Didn't get that. Got one in a middle school. And absolutely fell in love with middle school students, the whole aspect of everything 11 to 13, 14-year-olds. Love teaching math. I always loved math, and so that just came very natural. And so I was a parapro for a year and went back to school to get my post-bac at North Georgia. And while doing my post-bac, I also got my master's through North Georgia.
Now, this is one of our first times kind of asking this question to teachers. Tell me about your middle school or junior high experience.
So middle schools, in the Midwest at least, middle schools didn't exist when I was in school. About 10 years later, they came around. So I actually went elementary through 6th grade, and then junior high, 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then we would go to the high school. So I was not very athletic. I did run track. I was very slow. I never won anything, but I enjoyed at least being part of a team, so that was fun. I did join the dance team as a 9th grader. I don't know how I made that team either because I really can't dance. And then in high school, I didn't really participate much in sports and activities. I was more the academic nerd. Just, trying to get through lots of classes. I wanted the advanced classes, and I wanted to take calculus, and I wanted to take chemistry and physics, and so, yeah.
So already talking about sports, we've heard you've done a lot with the basketball teams as their scorekeeper. So tell us about some of your memories and stories with that.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things that I've ever done in my entire teaching career was to be part of the girls' basketball team here at Chestatee. I can't remember how many years I kept the books, but I did get to keep the books, and Mr. Lawson, he would be the timekeeper, and we just really worked well together, and he would do the play-by-play, and I'd be writing it down in the books, and got to know the coaches really well, and just had a really good time. It was always the girls' teams. I'm not really sure how I ended up into that niche, but I did. I think generally I taught most of the girls, which was really fun. And then to be able to see them as an athlete as well as an academic performer just really was just so much fun. It was probably my favorite thing I ever did at Chestatee.
So still on the topic of sports, you just mentioned that you coached tennis. So tell me about that.
I did. I didn't play a lot of sports, like I said, when I was in school. But as I became an adult, moved down here, we moved to a neighborhood that had tennis community. And so I started playing tennis. My husband and I played tennis for 10 or 12 years. And so it's just a lot of fun. And we would take lessons from our neighborhood coach. And so I felt like, that would be a lot of fun. I've never coached a team, but, let's go for it. It may have been Miss Hood may have been the one that left with the Grudenfelders. I'm not sure when she was coaching that I took over. I coached for 2 years, basically the JV the 8th graders that would go up to the high school to play. It was a lot of fun. I did stop coaching when my grandchildren started coming. So
Let's get into one of our most favorite questions, our action question. What are some of the most memorable experiences you've had here at Chestatee?
oh gosh, there are so many. I think one of my favorite things that happened was when the Honor Society went to Washington, D.C. I remember us getting together and having that last minute meeting. This is what's going to happen. I was like, okay, well, there's some weather coming in. Like, you know what? Maybe I should go by Walmart and get myself some boots. So I went by Walmart, got some boots, and I was very glad because I think we had like a nor'easter come through in DC. And it was like 6 inches of snow. It was crazy. We had our picture taken with all the people up on the steps, and snow was just coming down. It was amazing. Some people had never seen snow, and especially that much snow. You know, you don't have that here. From the Midwest, that was normal. We had snow. That was not a big deal. But it was just really fun to see a lot of students maybe that had never seen that kind of snow. And we weren't afraid. We just went for it.
That was great. It also snowed on this year's field trip for the second time ever. Let's get into what you're doing now. So I know you're not at Chestatee, but you're still in sort of a teaching role. So tell me about that.
Sadly, I'm not here anymore. My husband and I moved a couple of years ago. And it just became too far for me to drive. It would have been about an hour one way, and 2 hours in the car a day is a lot. So I always envisioned myself retiring from Chestatee. That once I started here, I was here for 19 years. And so once I was here for a few years, I was like, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm going to retire from. And things just don't always work out the way you think they're going to. And we moved, and it was a good move. I'm not disappointed at all, but needed to find a new place to work. Of course, there's plenty of middle schools around. I am actually working at a junior high, though, which I believe there's only 3 in the state. We are a school of 7th and 8th graders only. So our middle school is 5th and 6th. And our junior high is 7th and 8th. So I've been teaching 7th grade, and I will continue to teach 7th grade next year. Still math. I won't teach anything else.
Do you believe your time here at Chestatee helped you to become a better teacher?
I think the time here made me who I am for sure. There have been so many people along the way that have been just so encouraging, and you can learn from so many people. There are so many good teachers here at Chestatee. And every day you learn something new from your peers, let alone the students. So absolutely, this has definitely made me who I am.
So tell me, how have your relationships changed since you moved to this new school? Do you still keep in contact with your former colleagues?
Absolutely. These are my best friends. When you're at a school for 19 years and you create those relationships, they don't go away. We still vacation together. We've been on cruises together. We go to the beach. We go to the mountains. We go out for dinner. I mean, just, all the things. There are so many people here that I still keep in touch with. I know I can call. You saw Miss Beeman. I know I can call her up in any moment. Hey, you want to go do something? There she is, Got lucky enough to go see Lion King. Nobody wanted to go with my family. I was like, well, hey, Beeman, you want to go see Lion King at the Fox? Sure. So, yeah, these are still my best friends, and I can't imagine it any other way.
Now, I've seen you in the building a few times since you have left here. Mm-hmm. So tell us, what are you doing here coming back?
Yeah, it was really nice this year. My spring break did not line up with your spring break. And so your day at the museum was the end of my spring break. And I was so fortunate that Miss Bowker has a text chain and says, hey, we could use some volunteers for this. I was like, I can do that. I'm not working this week. This is fantastic. And so I got to come back and judge the day at the museum, which was really great because when I was here, I was one of the push teachers. And so I didn't really have that SOAR experience. And so it was just such a neat thing to go through and interview students and just hear what their passions were and hear what they put together for their displays, and just what they had learned. It was fantastic. I enjoyed every last bit of that. So hopefully my spring break won't align ever again, and I can come back every year.
So now on the topic of SOAR, tell us about your time here when they first introduced the SOAR program and push and things like that. Just tell us what you thought of that.
So when they first did the SOAR, and I can't remember what year it was, and I don't think we even called it SOAR at the time. I'm not even sure of that. Everybody did a SOAR, and it was like once a month, maybe twice a month. And I did a gaming SOAR, and we played dominoes. So didn't have a lot of time to make relationships with the students because it was only like, I couldn't even tell you how much time, but once or twice a month. At one point, I did a military SOAR to learn about military, brought some MREs in, and we had some, festive meals. Really fun. I had a friend whose husband was in Afghanistan at the time, and we were able to, it wasn't a Zoom call, but it was whatever it was at the time. And so he and a person that he was working with in Afghanistan, we got to interview them from here, and that was really fun. The only other one I remember is a painting SOAR. I really enjoy painting with acrylics, and so we did a painting SOAR. I don't know if those ceiling tiles are still up in the 8th grade hall or not.
Maybe.
You'll have to go look someday.
So tell us about your relationships with the current administrators here and just maybe some stories about them.
Okay, I have 2 stories. One, I remember the first time I met, 2 things. One, I remember the first time that I met Miss Kogot. I was on the leadership team here, and we had our summer retreat at the county level. I didn't know who she was. I was working for Miss Gerard at the time. And so we were, I believe, at Flowery Branch, chit-chatting. I'm talking to somebody, I couldn't even tell you who it was. We're talking about couponing. Have you ever seen extreme couponing? There's a show, weird stuff. People
I've heard you're a big couponer.
Hoards lots of items. Anyway, I didn't hoard a lot of items. However, I really enjoyed the couponing, and I enjoyed being able to save the money. I still do some of the couponing, but I even did couponing classes here.
That's what we have heard from some of the teachers.
Yeah, that was fun. But when I was at this leadership retreat, all of a sudden she's like, I like to coupon. Instant. All right, we're going to get along real well. So I've enjoyed that. And then, of course, she became principal. And I worked for her for several years. I think she said 14 years. So, yeah, I worked for her for 12 years. Second story, your new administrator, Ms. Rosales. She and I were in grad school. I mentioned back in the early 2000s, I was at North Georgia doing a post-bac program to get my teaching certificate. We also did our master's at the same time. Well, she has a master's in middle grades math as well. So we were in classes together, just a couple. But they were 7 days long, 8 hours a day. Loved them. And so when you're together with, I don't know, maybe 15 people that long, you get to know them. So I had been in a couple of them. Well, there were 4 total. The 4th one, Miss Rosales was the teacher. And she had been in class as a student with several of us that she now was teaching. And we were just not very nice to her. I believe there might have been like airplanes and beach balls flying through the air, just craziness. We weren't very nice to her, but she was a fantastic teacher, and we managed to get through.
What was your favorite moment or maybe achievement here at Chestatee?
Oh, gosh. Like I said, the basketball team was just so much fun. I loved doing the Honor Society. We went on the second trip, and we went to Florida and swam at the Manatees. Do they still do that?
We did. We did that last year.
Yeah, that was fun. Miss Duckett, you know her? Yep. She and Miss Glass, I don't believe, was here when you were here. I have a picture of us in our wetsuits. That's fun. We won't let that get released. But, yeah, that was fun. So, yeah, just everyday things, too. We celebrated birthdays. Everybody had a birthday. And, we always, the whole entire hall would celebrate the birthday. And, somebody'd make a cake. And we cooked lunches a lot for each other. There was one point where we had literally 8 of us, and one person would cook for all 8 Monday through Thursday. And then the next 4 people the next week. It was great. Just lots of fun.
That is some amazing stories. So now for a few more, this is our rapid fire section, which we call Talent Talk.
I've got to get a drink.
That's great. I'll go ahead and read the first question, which is our typically our first question.
Yeah, now I might stumble. I don't know.
Did you get in trouble a lot as a student?
I didn't necessarily get in trouble, but I talked a lot.
What's the weirdest trend your generation had back in your junior high days?
One of the weirdest things that we used to do was, I don't know, we called them polos. I don't know. I guess you'd call them golf shirts now.
I would call it a polo.
Okay, so a polo. You would wear two. You'd wear two, and you would flip the first collar up a little. Yeah, I know. It was two, and there were solid colors most of the time. I don't know why. Weird, right? Like, why would you wear two shirts? That was weird. I don't remember any, like, weird sayings or anything, but I do know for chorus, I was in chorus. I didn't really sing well, but I was in chorus in junior high. You know the candy bars you sell?
Yeah.
For Honor Society? We sold them.
For like 50 cents.
Oh, I don't remember how much, but it's like 100 years ago. And we were still selling them. And you're still selling them now. So that was really kind of a fun thing.
What's the weirdest trend you've seen with middle schoolers since you've been teaching?
Oh, good Lord. The things people say. Yeah. I'm not even going to say the words y'all say these days. I don't know, just learn really weird things. I have to go to this, oh gosh, what do you call him? I don't know, influencer. I have to go to this influencer guy, and I have to like listen to what he tells me of what those things mean, because I don't know.
That's a good tactic for some of our teachers, maybe. Was there a teacher here at Chestatee that you acted normal around, but you were secretly scared of?
I really can't think of anybody. I think when I got here, the school was still relatively new, about 5 years old. And I felt like I was just welcomed in. And I never really had that experience. And I wasn't a student, so that might be part of it too. I do know that I had 3 people who were really 4 people who have been extremely instrumental in mentoring. And I've heard one of their names before on your podcast, and that would be Jill Mull. Got to work with her for years and absolutely adore her. I still call her to this day, hey, I need some advice, And so I've heard her name come up on your podcast a few times, and I'm like, well, that's pretty interesting. I'm not sure that we call her the Mullinator.
Now, on the topic of nicknames, let me stop you right there. We've heard people used to call you Special K.
Yes.
What's that all about?
So when I got hired here, it was pre-planning, and I met one of the other teachers, and I said, hi, my name is Sue Kierzkowski, and he heard Superkowski. I was like, okay. And somehow that just evolved into Special K. I've been called cereal, like the Special K cereal.
Yeah.
But yeah, Special K. Miss Kogod will still call me that.
What was your dream job as a kid?
Don't laugh. I wanted to be a math teacher.
Hey, stick to your mind, guys.
Although I didn't do that coming out of school.
What'd you do?
It took me about 12 years.
Oh,
So, but finally found my way.
What was your favorite field trip you ever went on as a student, and what about as a teacher?
Gosh, as a student, I went to it was a pioneer place. Again, I grew up in Indiana. And so it was like this pioneer town that they like recreated, and you would go and you'd like churn the butter, and you would like use the tools that they would use back in the 1800s and stuff. So that was very memorable. Everybody studied Indiana history in 4th grade, and that was our field trip. So I know that's kind of strange. I don't remember a lot of trips in junior high and high school, though.
So what about as a teacher? Maybe the DC trips?
Oh, the DC trip, I only got to go once, because the second time we were going to go was the 2020. And we were ready to go, and everything got shut down. So I didn't get to go on that one. And the year that we went to DC later, several teachers' children were in Honor Society. And so they went, which was great. That was a great experience for them. Yeah, the DC trip really was just phenomenal.
What was the most popular hangout spot for you and your friends as a kid?
Football games, basketball games. We had Roble Noman's, I can't remember the name, Roman Noble's Pizza. I can't remember if that's what it was. It was a chain, but it's probably not in the South. Anyway, we had a pizza joint that we'd hang out at.
If you could relive one school day, which would it be? This can be student or teacher.
I wouldn't want to relive any as a student. As a teacher, at Chestatee, one of my favorite days was the field day, 8th grade day. It was just so much fun leading up to it, and had a great time doing all the field events with the students. Competing against other teachers was a lot of fun. So I think those would be my favorite days if I had to pick anything of all the time.
What's something you wish you could go back and tell your younger self, or if there was a decision that you would like to change?
That's a great question. I think if I talked to my younger self, I would want to say, get involved. Get involved in anything that you're interested in, just to see what you really do want to do or what you really do like. Don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about being boy crazy, and just have fun. High school's one of those times, and of course, middle school's the time you have to go through to get there. But just get involved. And I know at Chestatee, there's just so much to do. And so get involved.
If you had to describe your teaching experience in one word, what would it be?
Exciting.
Well, thank you, listeners and viewers, for joining us on episode 9 of The Eagle Experience. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share and subscribe. I'm Zach Roach, and this is Sue Kierzkowski. So until next time, thanks for joining us for another Eagle Experience.